Oh shit.
With the first pick,
Welcome one, welcome all to the Fantasy Rant podcast. I am Dan Baker, accompanied by my co-hosts Evan Gooding and Mason Beck. With Week 6 officially over, we are 1/3 of the way through the NFL season. Feels crazy that it's gone by this fast, but now we got a large enough sample size. It's time to make some deals in Dynasty. We'll be talking about some guys that are they worth a second round pick as a contender? Are they worth selling on as a rebuilding team? We'll also compare some nameless QBs, running backs, and wide receivers. We'll put up some stats, see if you guys can guess those players before we can. And then, of course, we're going to dive right into the Wheel of Fortune. Happy to say my face is finally off the wheel. All right. So, in case y'all forgot, the Wheel of Misfortune, we will each spin the wheel. We'll get to choose one player from each position to add to our team. If you get one pass, but if you pass once on your second spin, you are stuck with that player. It's going to be based on PPR points, 4 point per passing touchdown for the QBs. Last week I had Jimmy G, terrible and injured. Kendre Miller against Houston, thought maybe with the matchup he could break off a big one, terrible. KJ Osborne did not play the Justin Jefferson role like the coaches said that he might. And then Tyler Conklin up against Philly. All of our tight ends sucked though, so I'm not going to take that one too hard. He was actually our leading tight end of the three, which is pretty sad.
One. And
pretty
we all
sad.
pass on him. We all pass on him too.
Right. Hey, except for me.
Yes, except for you. And then the winner over here, winner, round two-time champ. But my quarterback was Derek Carr, who had himself a game against Houston, 19.32. He was the MVP of my squad for sure. Tyjae Spears versus Baltimore, 7.3 points. Solid. We'll take it. He was not the top. Actually, no, he was the top running back out of the three here. Rashid Rice versus Denver, another solid person, 11.2. Justin Ross did not make as much of an impact as I was worried about. So, yeah, safe to say that is, I won't even say anything else about that. But tight end, I had Higbee versus Arizona, and he put up 3.8 points. So, very, very bad again. But we managed to win by exceptional margin, 41.62 points total.
Yeah, much bigger margin than last week. I think we were all within 3 points last week.
Yeah.
And then I finished in last this week. I was very excited with my quarterback being Baker versus Detroit, but he only put up 7.84, which was the worst quarterback of the three. And then at RB, I had Justice Hill, which I wasn't too excited about that one. Last week against Tennessee, I only put up 6.5. I got Josh Downs against Jacksonville. He actually had a good week. I was happy when I got him last week, put up 13.1. And then the pick I knew and I called that I would get 0 points from is Durham Smith. I didn't like half my picks. I liked two of my picks, didn't like two of my picks going into the week, and so
you and
Dan, name of the game, baby.
You and Dan had a battle for last, less than a point difference between the two of you guys.
Hey, as long as I'm off the wheel. Speaking of, let's play that game. All right, Evan, you won it again. Take a look at that beautiful face in the middle. Look at that.
Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. I love the L. I love the L.
Took the L in the Wheel of Misfortune, and my Brownies gave those 49ers their first L of the year too.
Ooh, L's around.
Ooh.
Yeah, bad weekend of football between the Niners and Colorado. Just not a good weekend of football.
Oof. Yeah, so our quarterbacks this week, we are stepping it up. We've been doing some players on the bubble. We're taking a small step up. Most of these guys are players that you want to start. So we got Brock Purdy going up against Minnesota. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back week. I'm already going to tell you that's my target on this wheel. Matthew Stafford with a home game against Pittsburgh. Kirk Cousins going up against San Francisco at home. Jordan Love travels to Denver. Derek Carr on Thursday Night Football goes up against the Jags at home. And then Justin Herbert heading to Arrowfield to take on the Chiefs.
Arrowhead, same thing.
I said Arrowhead, didn't I?
Field, whatever.
Arrowfield.
Yeah.
Arrowhead. Did I say Arrowhead Field?
Nobody's paying attention. We'll move on.
Oh, God.
All right, let's see who we get here. Kirk Cousins versus San Fran. Oh,
No JJ. Doesn't
no
take him.
JJ, and that's a no for me. My target here is going to be Herbert. I'm not as confident as you are for Purdy, so yeah, I don't think that's going to be as well for him.
All right, let's see who I get. Okay, I'm gonna ride with it. It's not my favorite, but I don't want Kirk Cousins. I actually don't want Justin Herbert this week. KC has been surprisingly one of the top defenses in the league. So I am going to take Matthew Stafford on this one. And let's see who Mason chooses here. Justin Herbert. Not the worst, not the best.
But there's two other targets that I like out there. I mean, obviously, if Herbert's on your team, he's not a sit by any means.
Right? And if Evan doesn't get the two people that you're targeting, then it's a 50-50 shot to get the guy you want.
Yeah, I'm going to pass because there's two other targets that I like.
Let it ride.
A little more than Herbert.
Come on, Herbert. Spin him again.
Don't give the Chargers fan his quarterback.
No.
Let's go. I actually think I mentioned Derek Carr on the waiver episode this week. I think not only just for this matchup, but also Carr has a great schedule moving forward. The next 4 games, let me pull that up while we spin this wheel for Mason. But yeah, the next 4 games, Derek Carr's going up against the Jags, the Colts, the Bears, and the Vikings. Oh, so the Chargers... Big time. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that anymore. Well, the 49ers fan got his 49ers quarterback. Evan, you are stuck without your quarterback.
Yeah.
We'll move
on. Derek Carr brought me the champ this past week, so running them back to back, I'll take it.
He's going to have a comeback week. He is.
He's going to have a huge week. I think that the 49ers are going to play like they have something to prove after taking the L. I really don't think that they're going to have 2 bad performances in a row. And Evan, as far as Derek Carr goes, 50 passing attempts against Houston last week, 353 yards. Like, you could do worse. I could definitely see Jacksonville performing well and the Saints having to chase, even though I did see that the Saints are 1-point favorites going into it. Going to be a great game, honestly. I think 2 underrated teams both have great shots in poor divisions.
Yeah, I do think that Kamara being back is definitely helping his completion percentage. Yeah, that's why that number is being jacked up so much, because they're throwing him the ball all the time.
100%. Yeah. Go ahead.
I do think the Saints' favorite is also due to the unknown of what's going on with Lawrence's knee.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, because who knows if he's even. I saw you picked up the backup there, Dan.
My internet honestly cut out for a second. I'm glad that it didn't drop completely.
Oh, we're talking about Lawrence's knee. So I saw you picked up the backup. So that might be why the spread is the way it is.
Dude, so it's so screwed up. This is my first year. I had a young team the past couple of years in our Dynasty League, and I got Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson, and C.J. Stroud as my main 3 quarterbacks. Got Mike White and Sam Darnold as backups. Justin Fields is out. Anthony Richardson is out. CJ Stroud is on bye. I am relying on Beathard and Brian Hoyer as my main 2 quarterbacks this week. Really hoping for I don't wish injury upon anybody, but I'm really hoping that Lawrence gets healthy. Stay out. Do your best. I hope all the best for you week 8 on, but stay out of week 7 for me, please.
you need one of those.
At least one. I'm gonna be forced to throw JSN in my super flex, and not what you're looking to do so far this year.
No, not at all.
All right. Let's see. I am up first this time.
Oh yeah, let's read off the running backs here real quick.
Oh, yeah. Good looks. So we got Jonathan Taylor, James Cook. Oh, I'm sorry. So we have, excuse me, we have Jonathan Taylor going up against Cleveland. Really tough matchup. Jahmyr Gibbs going up. I'm sorry, not Jahmyr Gibbs. We replaced him with James Cook because there is still not 100% certainty that he is going to be starting with the injury he's been nursing. So James Cook going up against New England. Brian Robinson Jr., who has been slowing down heavily, going up against the Giants. So that is a good matchup in the running game. Zach Evans going up against Pittsburgh. Very curious to see how he is utilized. It looks like Kyron Williams might be missing more than just a week, like they let on. I think that Zach Evans is going to get fed. They only have, I believe it's Royce Freeman, and I'm blanking on the other guy that they brought into this team, but
They did add Darrell Henderson too.
Darrell Henderson. Oh yeah, that's right, and he at least has familiarity with the system, so I would expect him to be more heavily utilized in comparison to Royce Freeman, at least for week 7. But regardless, I think Zach Evans is going to get the heavy workload there. Good system for him to put up some numbers. Jerome Ford going up against Indianapolis. Jerome Ford, go out and see what you can acquire him for. I don't think too many Jerome Ford managers are going to be asking for an arm and a leg for him. He has, in the past 3 games, played against Tennessee, Baltimore, and San Francisco. All of them are top 5 run defenses, and the Browns have the first easiest schedule for the rest of the season. So go out, take a look, and see if you can acquire Jerome Ford for the cheap. Hope Steve isn't listening to this in our 585 league. I sent him a trade earlier. And then we got this one's interesting to me. Raheem Mostert going up in Philly. Obviously, the Dolphins have been putting up numbers, but Philly is the hardest run defense to go up against. So I think this is an interesting slew of running backs that we got here. It's super risky. I think this is going to be the biggest boom or bust running back on there that I end up getting. I got Zach Evans against Pittsburgh. I'm gonna take him. I'm gonna take Zach Evans. I think there are other bigger names out there right now, but I think Zach Evans is going to get the volume. So I'm gonna chase that.
All right.
Who's up here? Is this me or Mason?
This is Mason.
Mason.
Well, I got James Cook against New England. I'm going to take the risk that he does play, because I honestly do think if he is in against New England, I think Buffalo's going to kick the crap out of him, and it's going to be a heavy run game for them. And I mean, I have James Cook in one of my other fantasy teams, one of my big ones, so might as well not root for him twice.
You guys took the bottom 2 that I didn't want. The bottom 2. So I might even, I don't know. This is great. I love this. I love the way this is going right now.
Who are you targeting?
Right now, I'm probably targeting Mostert.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. He is I believe the running back 2 on the year, so can't really argue against that.
And he's getting the carries, he's getting the work that he wasn't getting before with Achane on there. So yeah, I think that's pretty safe. I do understand Philly D is not great against the run, but he can outrun almost anybody on any team. So
I mean, all right, so we'll spin the wheel, see what we got. But I do believe Philly is number 1 against the run, and that they are like 28th against the pass, or to wide receivers specifically. Jerome Ford against Indy. Does he want him? Does he take a free spin? Doesn't have anybody else to wait for.
I'll take the free spin. Why not?
All right.
I think Jerome Ford is about the fair value to Jonathan Taylor and Brian Robinson. So let's hope for Mostert here.
You're about to head to New Orleans for a bachelor party. You're getting ahead of the gambling. I like it.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
The gamble does not pay off.
No.
Stuck back with Jerome Ford.
Yep.
The wheel said you will take him, Evan.
Well, you know what? The wheel has not done me wrong yet, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. some subtle smack talk. I like it. All right, let's see. Let's see what we got for the wide receivers. We got Devontae Adams heading to Chicago. He's going to play. He's been playing, but he's been nursing an injury. Also likely to have either Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell throwing the ball to him. We got Christian Watson off of the bye, probably going to be the healthiest he'll be this year. Going up to Denver, weak defense, boomer bust player. Tyler Lockett versus Arizona. Personally, this is the guy that I'm targeting. Arizona is a trash D. Tyler Lockett's super consistent. I would love to have him. We got Marquise Brown going up again. Apparently, Marquise Brown's. My fingers went into autopilot and just typed my team. Marquise Brown against the Raiders. And then Calvin Ridley on Thursday Night Football, heading to New Orleans. Maybe you'll see him there, Evan.
I will. I'm going to that game.
Oh, perfect. You're going to see just a ginger streaking across the field going to meet his idol.
That's my podcaster. I watch him.
I've had you on my dynasty team for 2 years. Don't bet anymore, Calvin.
Yeah, right. Oh, my God. Yeah, he has been showing up much this year. So this is going to be an interesting wheel. I like that. I like the targets here. Right.
And the last guy we got is DJ Moore playing in Las Vegas. Oh, Marquise Brown. Who do we got? Marquise is going up against Seattle. Not Las Vegas, like I said earlier. We got DJ Moore playing against Las Vegas, but we're going to have the second stringer. Honestly, the footballers have gotten in my head. They keep on calling him whatever his first name is and then Baggins, like Bilbo Baggins. And I can't think of anything else now. So that backup QB is not going to be great. Mason, you're first up this round. DJ Moore, interesting. Vegas isn't super scary. What do you think?
I mean, I think DJ Moore is still going to have a good week, but there is, I think, 3 other options that I'd rather take over him on this wheel. So I am going to pass on DJ Moore.
He passes on to Evan. Let's see who you got.
Ooh, Adams.
Arguably the best wide receiver on the board. Not even arguably. He's the best wide receiver on the board.
Question is
in a good matchup, do you trust Brian Hoyer and or Aiden O'Connell to get the job done?
I will trust this. I'm going to take it.
I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, it's actually my first keep off the first one in like 5 wheels. So, yeah, we'll take it.
All right. And next up, I am up. Let's see. Give me either Marquise or Tyler Lockett.
No.
Dang.
You just love some DJ Moore. I know your fantasy team want to double down on that. You want it. You know you do.
Man. I just can't do it. I want him. I want you to want me, but I'm not doing it. On to the next one. Let's see what we got. No.
Oh,
one of my targets.
Okay.
So, well, that's not one of the ones I was wanting, but I'm stuck with Marquise Brown. So,
I mean, he's been pretty solid on the year. You could have done worse, I think, personally. But who were you targeting?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
Honestly, my number one is Christian Watson. I mean, Denver's been the 19th worst team, or 19th
against wide receivers.
Yeah, 19th team against wide receivers. They've given up a good amount of points to them. Watson is healthy. That entire Packers team was really banged up, and coming off a bye week, it's a good sign. I think they're just going to come in, and it's going to be a great offensive game from Green Bay. It's going to be one we've been waiting for all year from if you're an owner of any Green Bay player. I mean, I'm starting Dobbs, even though he hasn't been doing in week 5. He didn't really do anything. I think him and Watson are both going to have pretty solid production.
Right, yeah. I mean, Christian Watson went from 46% snap share in week 4, almost doubled that in week 5, going up to 84%. He snapped off, I think it was a 72-yard reception. The Broncos did say that they're going to change up their defense. We'll see what that entails. They definitely need a change. But that could go one of two ways. When you're trying to switch your defensive scheme mid-season, that could either go really poorly or they're going to shake things up and the Packers aren't going to know what to scheme against. So big boomer bust guy there. I like the pick. Let's see who we got for the last one.
Oh, the wheel has spoken.
The wheel has spoken. Are you kidding me? All right, I am stuck with DJ Moore. I think he can at least PPR his way to a solid game, but we'll see what this backup's made out of. We'll move on to the tight ends. And this one, we don't, in my opinion, don't truthfully have a dud. You know, a dud or two on this. See if it, what we're working with. But after all of our tight ends scoring 5.4 points or less, I think we needed a little bit of a change up. Make this exciting.
We needed a buff.
Yeah, needed a buff. So let's, Evan, you're going to be first up. Spin that wheel.
I don't love having this guy in my fantasy team. I really don't. I mean, I'm actually trying. I've been trying to move him in the off season. I tried to upgrade. Nobody just seems to want anything to do with him. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna pass. Yeah, it's a strong tight end unit here. I'm gonna pass.
All right.
Before we spend though, we got to go over them. We almost skipped that again.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good looks. So
we got TJ Hawk versus San Francisco, Evan Ingram versus New Orleans, Mark Andrews versus Detroit, George Kittle versus Minnesota, Sam Laporta against Baltimore, and Darren Waller against Washington.
All right. On to the next spin. I am up. Give me some Mark Andrews, please. Yeah.
You did get him.
Ask and you will be rewarded. All right. I got Mark Andrews on the squad. Very happy about that. Detroit's been weak against the tight end position as well.
Oh, Mason's favorite tight end.
That's true. Dynasty tight end 1, TJ Hawkinson, according to Mason.
Okay, well, obviously, I love me some TJ Hawk, but against the Niners,
No JJ.
Yeah, no JJ.
Let's still pass. I'm gonna pass.
All right.
I would not have passed there. I would have taken that.
I think he is a PPR machine, at least so far this season, especially with them passing so much.
Oh my God!
Oh man,
come on!
This seems to keep on happening.
Oh my God! All right. Darren Waller, it is.
All right, Evan is stuck with Darren Waller. Watch this be his blow-up game.
I hope so for my dynasty team too.
For your dynasty squad, right? All right, and let's see who Mason's stuck with at tight end. Evan Ingram at New Orleans. He's been so consistent. I think he's tight end, either tight end 3 or 4 on the season right now. I wouldn't be mad about that personally. But what are you thinking about Evan Ingram this week?
No, I mean, like you said, there's some consistency there, and I don't think he's gonna necessarily be tight end 1 or anything like that. There's a lot of targets going around in Jacksonville, and then obviously, I mean, it's a little worrying with Lawrence maybe being out, but Evan Ingram's still a solid play no matter what. I mean, him and TJ Hawk, I'd say maybe around the same thing this week, just because TJ Hawk's playing the Niners, and then Evan Ingram might not have his quarterback.
Yeah, I wanted some of that Sam Laporta action, or I'd take Hawk. Those were my 2 targets there.
I was spinning.
Yeah, Baltimore's been pretty tough defense. I'm very happy with my selection there. I think my second up would have been George Kittle, just with Debo being a little bit banged up. Would have been interesting to see, but we got the guys we got. To recap really quick, my team, I'm going to be rolling out Matthew Stafford. Oh man, I just realized I paired Stafford and Zach Evans. Well, let's hope that the Rams blow up. I got Matthew Stafford, Zach Evans, both playing against Pittsburgh. I got DJ Moore against the Raiders, and Mark Andrews going up against Detroit. Evan, you want to kick your team off?
Yeah, so I have Derek Carr again versus Jax, though, this time. And I have Jerome Ford against Indy. And my wide receiver is Devontae Adams, which I love, and my tight end is not my favorite, Darren Waller. But let's hope he's been holding it down for my fantasy team, 12-0 in that league, and I hope he holds it down on the Wheel of Fortune for me here.
There we go. And Mason, your team.
And then for quarterback, I got my man Brock Purdy, who's going to have a rebound week against Minnesota. Niners don't play well in the rain, and there's a lot of injuries, so don't get scared if you have Brock Purdy.
Be scared of the
then
Browns.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, a little bit. But
Yeah.
all right, and then running back James Cook against New England. Obviously, injuries a little worrying, but if he is playing, I think he still is going to have a great week. And then I got Christian Watson against Denver. Like I said, Green Bay coming off that bye. I think he's going to have a good week against a pretty struggling defense. And then, I didn't get Christian Watson. I was talking about how I wanted Christian Watson. I got Marquise Brown against Seattle, which, I mean, Marquise Brown's been putting up good numbers. So not who I necessarily wanted. Like I did want
Watson.
I did want Watson, but Marquise Brown is still a solid start in all leagues. And tight end, I got Evan Ingram against New Orleans, who, he's been throwing up some consistent numbers, so nothing to complain about there.
Solid. All right, moving on to our second segment, we are going to be asking, are these players worth a second, and specifically a late round second rookie pick? We're talking Dynasty here, specifically Superflex, half PPR leagues, just the generalized. I feel like that's the most common Dynasty format. And keep in mind, so on Mason and Evan, but on every question, every player, we're going to be saying, are they worth trading for if you're a contender? And are they worth giving up if you're rebuilding? So we'll see how it goes here. The first player we're going to be talking about is a guy that was on this wheel. Evan was stuck with him, Derek Carr. And Evan, why don't we kick it to you? If you are a contending team, are you wanting to trade for Derek Carr with a late second round pick?
Yeah, I definitely. If I'm a contending team, I'm definitely going to be trying to get, like, especially if I have a QB that's injured, and there's been a bunch of those right now. So I'm gonna try to get my hands on Derek Carr for a late second for sure. I mean, I actually did trade Derek Carr in the offseason, and I thought it was a great move. I tried to get a first for him too. So that begs the question. If I was rebuilding, would I give him up for a late second? I don't know. It would have to be an early second, just like I traded him away for the 202 this year. I think 202 or 203. But I would not. I don't know. It would be. I would want more for him, but I'd definitely be willing to buy him for a late second.
Yeah, I agree. I would be personally trying to buy him for a late second right now. We just talked about my dynasty quarterback situation. I'd be very happy to spend, especially a late second, on Derek Carr. He's got the weapons around him. He's got, excuse me, Olave and Rashid Shaheed are both great deep threats. Michael Thomas.
Because Mr. Consistent, Alvin Kamara.
Michael, how has Michael Thomas been doing last few weeks, Evan?
He's consistently getting like 7 points, 8 points.
That's nothing though.
No, but for a flex guy, for somebody that you need to throw in your lineup, that's not. There's definitely worse guys out there. So
there's worse guys out there.
He hasn't got a touchdown yet. If he catches a touchdown in any of those games, that's definitely playable numbers. I think he's got a touchdown coming his way soon.
Yeah, I like our dynasty leagues. Most of them are pretty deep. We got 11 starting spots, super flex, so 3 wide receivers, 3 flex, tight end, 2 running backs, and then the super flex and quarterback. So he's worth a 4th or 5th flex spot in your lineup each week, but I wouldn't be too content with wide receiver 42 in PPR leagues right now.
No,
personally. That being said, Mason, what do you think about Derek Carr being worth a late second?
I mean, I think you guys have touched a lot of the points. I think it kind of is worth it for a late second. If you are struggling with that QB spot, if you don't really have anybody, if you're sitting at the bottom couple quarterbacks, and maybe a decent streaming option. But I don't know. I mean, it does really depend on your team. If you are desperate at the quarterback position, I'd definitely say so. If you are in a rebuilding team, I definitely am giving up Carr. I don't think he has a ton of longevity, to be honest. I think he's maybe got, I mean, maybe 1-2 more years. If he struggles throughout the rest of this season, if he goes through a really bad slump, I could see him being out of the league pretty soon.
Yeah. And that's why I traded him away.
Right, yeah. And then on the opposite side of things, if you guys are a rebuilding team, Mason, will kick it to you first. Would you want to trade away Derek Carr for a late second round pick?
Well, yeah, that's what I was just touching on about
Oh,
how
I'm sorry.
I
I was looking up.
only
My bad. I was looking up the Saints draft picks in next year, in 2024. The New Orleans Saints, they don't have a ton of draft capital, so they got a first rounder, which is their own, a second rounder, but after that it jumps to the fifth round before they have their next pick. I really don't know if they're going to have the means to be able to get rid of Derek Carr, especially after giving him the contract that he did. So it's a guaranteed 2 years. I would personally be willing to keep him. I don't think I would want to trade him away for a late second round pick in Superflex Dynasty leagues. Evan?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to trade him away for a late second. No, I'd want more I'd want a first. I think that before this offseason, before the season started, I was trying to sell him for a first, and I think that he is at that value, and he's shown enough to really kind of carry that value through. Yeah, you're not going to be getting him for, I guess, one less year, but I still think he's got maybe 2 more years of starting.
Right. I mean, right now he is the quarterback 25 on the season. Not great numbers through the first 4 weeks. Not top. He had 17 points in week 1, but after that, no more than 10.12 points, and that was even in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. So, followed it up though. Week 5 and week 6 had above 19 points, and like I said, he's got Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Chicago, and Minnesota for his next 4. I do expect a rebound coming up here. Moving on to our next quarterback, though, Jimmy Garoppolo. Evan, I'll kick it to you first this time. Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is worth a late second round pick if you're a contending team?
I don't know why I'm not as high on Jimmy, but I want to say no. I want to say no. I don't trust him, and I think that if Aiden O'Connell keeps getting starts and is it shows up like 1 or 2 times, they might even question throwing him in over Jimmy. Like Jimmy, for some reason, has always been just a backup guy in my head, and like a throw-in guy that you could start and can run a decent offense. I don't think he's not going to be anybody that carries you to a Super Bowl. I don't think, and I think most teams know that. So I don't see his future being even as long, maybe just as long as Derek Carr, but I don't think he's going to be as efficient as Derek Carr throughout those next 2 years. So I'm going to say no.
Mason, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm not trading for Garoppolo if I'm contending. I mean, like we're talking about, there's some honest concern he could lose his starting job this season. He's been dealing with injuries already. I think he's already been through 2 injuries. This is the second one he's on. And from his experience of being on the Niners, Garoppolo gets injured a lot. Once he's injured, it's worried. You never know. Is he going to be fully healthy? Is he going to drop again? Then there's just the risk of that. And I think Garoppolo has a decent amount of years in the league, but he could really convert it to that backup quarterback role. So, I don't think that's worth it because there's uncertainty this year, and then really what is going to be his future after the season as well.
Yeah, and this is one of those players that is right on the fence for me. Personally, if I'm a contender, and I need quarterback help, I would be willing to trade for Jimmy G. Specifically, he has the first easiest schedule moving forward rest of season. His playoff matchups, he's going up against the Chargers, who right now give the most points up to the quarterback position. Kansas City, that's a tough one in week 16, but then goes up against the Colts, 25th against the quarterback right now. But on that same, and a lot of this is due to his weapons. If you didn't have Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers performing at a high level, Michael Mayer starting to break out a little bit, and a nice check down running back in Josh Jacobs, I would not be in on Jimmy G. But that paired with the easy schedule I'm willing to take that shot if I need a quarterback. However, if I am not a contending team, if I'm rebuilding, I am very happy to flip Jimmy G for a late second. Like we said, there is risk that he loses the job this year. I don't think that'll happen as long as he's healthy. Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell don't worry me too much, but I am definitely that's one of those players that rides the fence of this value, and it's good information to have. I think you guys can go out and get him if you're hurting at quarterback like me in Dynasty right now.
Yep, I agree. And
Um,
I wouldn't. I'd sell him if I had him. I'd be trying to sell him for that second round value for sure.
Yeah, if you're not a contender and you have him on your team, flip them for pretty much whatever you can get. This.
I mean, this next class is a QB heavy class too, so you could probably even get one of those back end quarterbacks out of this class for that second.
I'm in one of my leagues. I'm in a 1 QB league, a Dynasty. I got Josh Allen, Sam Howell, and then I have Jimmy. So I'm trying to get rid of Garoppolo.
For sure.
I'm struggling to even sell him for a third rounder right now. And
it's a 1 QB league.
Yeah, in 1 QB league,
it's
third rounder.
Drastically different values. But I hear you.
Yeah, but I mean, there's also going to be some situations where if you have Jimmy and you're looking at the top couple guys where they don't need another quarterback of Garoppolo's level. So it's really going to be dependent on your league if you are going to be able to move Jimmy for that asking price.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and go pay it when you're in your leagues. Obviously, pay attention to who needs him. If you're a rebuilding team, go look for the guy that just lost Anthony Richardson for the rest of the season. I'm sure he's going to be willing to spend a little bit more than a guy who's got even 2 average quarterbacks. So always keep that in mind. We're moving on to running backs here, though. This guy, I mean, he's just went on IR as of a week ago. We got James Conner. He's going to be missing at least another 3 weeks, but he was performing pretty well. I think that makes him an interesting conversation here. If you guys are a contending team, are you trying to trade a late second for James Conner?
What do you think, Mason?
I am. I mean, Connor's been already doing pretty good, and they're still up in the question. Is Kyler Murray going to return this season? And I mean, if Kyler Murray does return, it should be around playoff fantasy playoff time. So that offense could be a lot more high powered. And even if it isn't, that's Connor's backfield when he comes back. And when he's, maybe his first week back, he takes it a little slow, works back into the snap count. But after that, that's his backfield. There's no question to it.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I would do it. This is the guy that's on the fence for me too, just because he is pretty. And he hasn't been able to. I don't know when he's. I don't know. I don't know if he's had a healthy season in a while, but I don't know. This is really one of those on the fence guys for me too.
We stumped you.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'd have to say, with all the RB injuries going around, if you have somebody that if you only have 2 solid running backs, I'd probably trade for him just so that we have a backup coming in for any late round bye weeks that you may have coming through, because he is going to come back, and when he does come back, he's going to be good. He's going to be good until they bring in somebody new. Second round value is just so tough because there's going to be a lot of good running backs in the second round next year too.
I do want to say something about that Kyler injury. He was practicing today, and there's rumors that he could potentially be good to go within 2 weeks. So that
love that.
Week 7 is when he planned to start practice, and he's on schedule. So he's right on schedule for when they wanted to add him. I think that he could play within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I love hearing that.
And he's back.
I had 2 drafts this year where I got Kyler in the 4th round. That's music to my ears, man. So love seeing that. So as far as James Conner goes, though, I agree he is one of those guys that's on the fence. Right now, he's the Cardinals have the 30th easiest schedule moving forward for the running back position. He is going to miss a decent chunk of these difficult games against that tough schedule. In the playoffs, he's got he's got San Francisco in Week 15, Chicago in Week 16. Chicago, that's a great matchup with Chicago. But then Philadelphia in Week 17. Those are 2 of the hardest run defenses to go up against, even if you do have Kyler back at full strength at that point. I'm going to say that if I am contending, I am willing to. Yeah, I think I'm going to say I'm willing to spend up on them, especially just because there's so many injured running backs around the league right now. I do think I would pay the late second round to flip him. And again, one of those guys that I think because he's right on the fence, if I'm rebuilding, I'm not confident in James Conner being the lead back next year or getting re-signed to a team that wants to use him as the lead back. So also willing to flip him there. Next guy on the docket, we got Alexander Madison. Madison has performed well enough to keep Cam Akers off of the field. He's much younger than the other running backs that we have on this list. What do you guys think? Evan, you can kick it off this time.
I'm going to say no. I'm not really high on Madison. I think that honestly, Cam Akers could eat into his workload and eventually become the number one in that backfield over time. They would have to use him more in order to do that. but I don't know. I've never been too high on Madison. That offense was high, but now without JJ too, I don't think they're going to be scoring as much. So, and who knows? I heard JJ might not even come back this year too. So we'll see. I don't know. It's a tough one.
I heard 4 to 6 weeks for Justin Jefferson. I do think that he'll end up coming back this season for sure. But the Vikings are already 2-4 right now. It's not going to be guaranteed that they are competing. And if they're not, I really just don't see this offense continuing the high pace that it was at. And I think that Madison isn't getting enough work through the passing game like I thought that he would to return value on a late second round pick. So I would not trade for him with a late second round, and I would give him up if I was a rebuilding team.
I agree there.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I would trade for him if I'm a contender. And right now, he's RB17, which is decent production with all the running backs getting injured. That just adds more value to him. Another thing, he's been in the league for a while, but he is only 25 years old. And whether or not he is that lead back next year in Minnesota, whether he's somewhere else, he's at least earned himself where he's going to be a backup running back on some organization. And with how often running backs get hurt, he'll get some playing time throughout the years. So I mean, with a late second round for a guy that's potential to be a starter or is for sure going to be a backup on a team for at least 3-4 years, I think it's worth it.
It's interesting because in the full PPR format, he's got one game where he's scored 15 points. Outside of that, it's been 11.9 or less, and he's got a couple of duds mixed in there in the single digits. He has yet to score a rushing touchdown, which is interesting. The only 2 touchdowns he scored has been through the air. It's just not reliable. I don't know if I'm a contender. You would think that you would have some better running backs, but there are some injuries going around the league. So we will move on to the next guy. Super disappointing season so far. A guy that I was pretty high on. A lot to do with the contract and how the coaches were talking about him. Miles Sanders. I'll kick it off this round, and I'll dunk on myself. I'm not trading a late second round for Miles Sanders. I was super high on him leading into the season. I did honestly think that Bryce Young was going to be a little bit more pro ready heading into this year. One of the things I loved about Bryce Young is that he had such great anticipation. It felt like in college, he was always throwing his wide receivers open or throwing the ball to the spot before the wide receiver made his break. And I'm just not seeing that from him this year. Granted, he doesn't have a great wide receiver room, but this offense just isn't moving. And I don't know if Miles Sanders, even with being without being injured this last week, I don't think he's anywhere close to the 50 reception mark that the 50 reception pace that Frank Reich said that he was going to get to. It's just not enough boom. He's only got one game above 10 points. So I am willing to move on from him, admit my wrongs, and trade him away for a late second if I can.
Yeah, I'd be more willing to trade for him than Alexander Madison, to be honest. But he's still no. He's still a no for me. I wouldn't be able to as a contender, a late second even, I wouldn't be able to do it. The class next year is just, looking
Chuba
good.
just looks better. That was my
Yeah.
whole argument in the offseason is that it's like Chuba's not been great so far before this season. I was like, it's just Miles Sanders, but I don't know what Chuba did over the offseason, but go put your running backs on that program.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to say. I mean, Chuba put up 88 yards in his one start that he's had this season. Miles Sanders' highest yards in a game so far is 72 on the ground. Chuba just looks better, and Miles Sanders every year gets hurt over and over and over again. Where with the running back, a position where you're just taking hits, I don't think he has much longevity if he keeps getting hurt like this, which is another scary reason. If you're looking a little longevity. And when Bryce Young, they're going to give that guy as much help as he can. He's their franchise quarterback. So whoever's producing more and helping him out more is going to be in there.
Yeah. And that 72 yards was by far his best game. That was week 1 off of 18 attempts, still only 4 yards per carry. And after that, his highest yardage on the ground was 43 yards. So just not impressive, especially for a team that was running the ball so well last year with a couple of schmucks on the team. So next guy on the list, we got DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, pretty disappointing season so far, outside of one game where he was 8 for 140. I'll kick this one off. I am personally not trying to trade for him as a contender, especially with Ryan Tannehill going through a high ankle sprain. Same high ankle sprain that kept him out for a good chunk of the season last year. And the backups behind him, Malik Willis and Will Levis, not encouraging to me. So I am personally not trying to trade a late second for him, and I'm willing to trade away a second or trade him away for a late second.
What do you think, Nate?
I mean, for this price, I'm not trading for him or trading him away. There's a little rumors of D-Hop maybe being on the move, some rumors of Henry being on the move, so the Titans might be breaking down entirely, which makes it a little scary. But I mean, if D-Hop's on the move and puts him in a better passing offense fantasy-wise, just better passing offense in general, his production, his value will be going up. So I wouldn't be looking to move away from him from that, because if he moves to a different team, you might be able to, get maybe a early to mid second round pick for him. And I mean, D-Hop, he has the talent. I don't think this is going to be his last year either way. And then I wouldn't be trading for him as a contender either, just because there's kind of the nervous if that Tennessee team does not break down, there's a definitely a low ceiling, or there's a low floor for D-Hop. He's going to have some really ugly weeks where I don't know if it's worth giving up a pick for.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm gonna agree with you. I don't think I would be able to trade him away if I'm rebuilding. I don't think that this is his last contract. He's on a 2-year contract right now. I think that he can earn another contract, and if he does get moved to a better passing offense, that's why I would keep him, for the hope that he does. But that's kind of where I stand there.
All right, so moving on to our next player here, we are going to talk about Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's having himself a year right now, even pretty much the only guy on the Panthers that you are trying to start. I'm definitely trading a late second for Adam Thielen if I'm a contender, and another guy where I'm definitely flipping him for a late second if I'm not contending. Even with the contract that he's got, I don't expect this to continue next year. The Panthers have already expressed interest in getting a true number 1 on their team. So that could happen as early as the trade deadline, or at the bare minimum, I'm thinking it's happening next year. It'll be interesting to see how they acquire him, because they did trade away their first-round pick. I do believe they traded for a first-round pick. But, Evan, I'll kick it to you. Yeah, with the McCaffrey trade. So they got the 49ers first-round pick. That'll probably be,
second.
For McCaffrey?
Yeah, no, it wasn't a first. We gave him second, third, fourth, sixth, seventh. It was a bunch of just later picks or something like that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I'm just gonna pull it up really quick, but let's kick it to you, Mason. Then, would you trade a late second for Adam Thielen as a contender?
Oh yeah, I mean Thielen's been killing it. He's been beating everybody's expectations. I think a late second is the perfect price of where Thielen is, both sides of the ball. I mean, either way, if you're rebuilding and someone sends that to you, I'm taking it. If a contender and someone sends that to me, I'm taking it as well. I really think that's Thielen's price around where he is correctly valued.
Yeah, wide receiver 5 on the season right now in PPR.
Yeah,
Insane.
he's just old. That's really the only reason.
Old man
He
Thielen.
is old. And for that reason, I'm going to be selling him. If I'm rebuilding, I'm selling him, and I'm not going to be trying to buy him either. I just don't like you're going to buy him, pay a second, and then maybe have the guy you can play next year, maybe not. He's getting to that point where how many years does he have left, and it's daunting for me. I wouldn't want to even have that hanging over my head.
All right, so our next guy up, we got Josh Palmer. I think we're all in agreement that it's not going to be the Josh Palmer as the wide receiver 2 on this team next season. But right now, he's performing fine. He's a big play guy for this team. Evan, as the resident Chargers fan, are you trading a late second for Josh Palmer?
No, I'm not. I'm still a believer in Quentin Johnson, and I think that eventually, he will, make Josh Palmer a little bit less relevant than he is. And right now, he needs every bit of relevancy he has right now to be in starting lineups. So the second that Quentin Johnson starts to take a little bit more targets away, you can't even trust him to put him in the lineups. So I'm gonna say no, and I'd totally sell him for a second if I could.
Mason, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if your team's already a true contender, definitely not. Because if you're already true contending, you might be looking more like who's going to be doing good in playoffs at this point. If you're dominant, say you're undefeated, maybe one loss, you might already be looking ahead that much. Quinn Johnson is going to come in and take more of a role at some point that might make Palmer kind of useless potentially in the playoffs or in fantasy playoffs. So I'm just not taking that risk. But yeah, definitely selling him for a late second if I can.
And I'm looking it up right now. I'm pretty sure I remember a stat about Quentin. Let's see where he is.
It's not good. It's not going to be good. I know it.
I'm trying to look it up with guys with a minimum of 10 targets. He might not even have 10 targets right
I don't
now.
think he does. I don't think he does.
Look it up.
He's literally not being used. I think they got Darius Davis and more, but yeah, and taking more snaps, but only because he's doing a lot of the special teams work, but still more snaps.
Oh man, it's like impossible for me to find this guy right now. Okay, well, whatever. I'm not doing it. I'm not trading Josh Palmer away for a second if I'm rebuilding. He's young enough. I think he is just a guy, but I am not worried about Quentin Johnston right now. I think he's going to be one of those guys that is just an overall bust for what we expected of him. I think he can eventually step up into this role, but right now, Josh Palmer is fine. In his last 3 games, while Mike Williams has been out, I think Mike Williams got injured in week 3, if I'm not mistaken. But 4 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown in week 3, 3 receptions for 77 yards, 4 receptions for 60 yards. He's not amazing, but he's not terrible. He's just a guy. I think that you are taking a risk with the late second. We haven't really even touched on the volatility with the late second round pick. But it's not guaranteed, and I think that Palmer is solid. Even if he just remains the wide receiver 3 on this team, I would rather have that for the next year and a half in comparison to taking the shot on the late second rounder, just 24 years old and a great offense. So I'll take the risk on him with the only guys ahead of him being super injury prone Mike Williams and super old Keenan Allen, even though Keenan Allen's a beast. Love that guy.
Beast.
All right, next wide receiver up, we got Curtis Samuel wrapping up this segment. Curtis Samuel is a surprise to me this year. Definitely thought Jahan Dotson would be the one taking a step up into the wide receiver 2 role and maybe even challenging McLaurin for the wide receiver 1 role. But what do you guys think? Evan, I don't know if you kicked it off last time, but I'll send it to you. What do you think about Curtis Samuel for a late second?
If you could get it, if you could sell him for a late second, I would sell him for a late second. I would not be interested in buying him, just because I do expect J Dot to come back to form what he was
Got
showing at
to.
the end of last season. But yeah, I would sell him, and I would not buy him.
Mason?
I mean, selling him, I think, is for the late second is an interesting spot because he honestly probably will not be with the Commanders next year. This is the last year of his contract. Terry is contracted, I believe, for 2 more years, and then Dotson is 2 more years with the option. So I don't think Samuel is going to be on this team. So it could be interesting where he's going to go. He could actually be in a better role. He never really, was going to be a top floor receiver with Terry, being there and Dotson, eventually coming to form.
Yep.
I wouldn't be selling him for that. I'd be selling him maybe mid-second to early second for Curtis Samuel. Buying him there, I probably wouldn't be buying him there either.
Yeah, I'm definitely not buying Curtis for a late second. I just still don't believe in it, even though right now he's the wide receiver 26 in PPR or half PPR leagues even. Wide receiver 26, that's solid. The Commanders are throwing the ball at the third highest rate in the league right now, so that is encouraging. However, I just can't get behind it. I don't see there being a world where Jahan Dotson doesn't start stepping it up at least a little bit. But I will not be trading for Curtis Samuel for a late second, and I will as a contender, and I would trade him away. All right. This one, in my opinion, I'll lead just because I think, in my opinion, this is an obvious yes. We got Evan Ingram at the tight end position. We were talking about him earlier, been incredibly consistent. Right now, Evan Ingram, he's got a minimum of 7 targets since week 2. He's got at least 6 catches, except for week 5 against Buffalo, since week 2 as well. Guy just puts up solid numbers, and in a tight end landscape where everything is unsure, Evan Ingram has been incredibly consistent.
Yeah, I would agree. Even with Bretton Strange getting his first touchdown of the season, and showing up a little bit, Evan Ingram's still tight end 1, and there's nothing going to be changing that in the foreseeable future for me. So I would totally buy him, and I wouldn't sell him for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely would not be selling him for that. I think, tight end position is hard to find a guy that's going to be consistent for you for years. Ingram's got some distance in him, so definitely not selling him for a late second. I don't even know if I'd be selling him necessarily for an early second. I mean, maybe on that part I would be. If I could buy him for that price, though, a late second, oh, yeah, I definitely would for this year and for the years to come.
Yeah.
Completely agreed. This one's going to be a little bit tougher. As a contender, would you be trying to buy David Njoku for a late second? Mason, you can kick this one off.
No, he hasn't done anything this year that has really, shot me out of the water. He might have a couple really good weeks, but I mean, the Browns' offense just doesn't look the best in general as far as fantasy production-wise. Deshaun Watson's put up some questionable games as far as throwing the ball, where it is a little worrying. What's going to be there. Elijah Moore had a great game. He was a part of the game plan a lot in last week's game. I think that will continue to grow. And then, obviously Amari Cooper, and they got a couple other young guys that are just feeding into it and all going to take targets away from Njoku.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't buy him for that either. You think about the next year's class. Late second is going to be a nice wide receiver that you're going to have for years and years to come. So Njoku's already getting up there in age, and he hasn't been performing exceptional numbers worth the second for me.
I personally, even as a contender, maybe he's not going to be completely worth it this season. He is only 27 years old. That's not too far up there in age as far as tight ends go. We see them have relevant years into like the early 30s. So I don't think he's a bad buy as a late second round pick. Specifically, again, if you might be able to use him this year, he's going to have some blow up games. Tight end position isn't guaranteed anything ever. but he does end his season with the 31st, 23rd, and 24th ranked tight ends. So he'll at least hopefully be relevant for playoff time. And he does have the fifth easiest tight end schedule moving forward. That's going to wrap it up, though. We unfortunately ran out of time to do the Guess That Player. We're going to try to incorporate that into next week's episode. But this has been a fun one, mixing in some Dynasty talk. Hope you all have a great week 7. Avoid those Bipocalypse players and check out the waiver video if you haven't already. Have a good one, you guys.
See you.